Good afternoon, everybody. We are working today on a beautiful 2004 Ford F150, and this should apply for like a 2004 through a 2008. Customer complaint that it did not have a horn. So I came over here to the fuse box. The fuse box that controls everything in this vehicle is in the passenger kick panel. And let me get some light on the situation here. So your horn fuse is this 20 amp fuse right there above the two 5 amp fuses. Okay, now the funky part is that, and I see a lot of questions on this on the internet, so I'm going to show you where it's at. Right there, and let me turn the light down just a little bit. Okay, so you've got big relay, and then you've got a set of small relays back there. This first relay that is equal with the 20 amp fuse and the 10 amp fuse is your horn relay. It's actually printed circuit board soldered right to the circuit board. You got to disassemble the fuse box to get to it. Possible for it to fail, but I want to give you guys another option here. So anyway, this 20 amp fuse was blown and I replaced the 20 amp fuse. Horn still didn't work. I went out to the horns, which are on the passenger side right here, and if you just kind of lay under, fortunately this one's tall enough, your horns are straight up there. Okay, there's two, a high and a low pitch. So when I got out here, when I plugged the fuse in, the fuse sparked, showing that it had power and was trying to engage the relay. And I got out there to the horns, and the horns were actually smoking. There was smoke pouring out of the horns, and they were hot. So then you start from the beginning of, okay, why? And your first suspicion is a ground input. That maybe the horn switch has failed, or there's a short in the clock spring. So over here in this harness that drops straight down the steering column, dark blue wire, it's kind of a sky blue actually, is your horn wire. And I had 12 volts on this wire with it connected, meaning it had a constant ground on it, because I've got red lead emitter to constant 12 volts, and then which is the green purple, and then I was probing the sky blue wire, and my meter was reading 12 volts all the time. So I cut the wire in half and started metering it this way. That way I can isolate. So blue wire's cut in half. I only have millivolts. I depress the horn and she goes to ground, 12.3 whatever volts. So then I come up here, move this to the vehicle side of this wire, and I've got a constant 12.21 volts, 1222. Okay, now we're going to go back over to the other side. And I'm going to set you down for a second here. Okay, so coming back into this, I pulled the horn fuse. The slot closest to the door for the fuse is where the constant 12 volts is. And then straight up here, this harness, and you can see the clip right here for where the fuse panel locks in. Bottom harness closest to the door, that blue wire you see right there, that's your horn wire. Okay, So I cut this thinking it was coming from the relay, and I put my meter on. Oh, this. Put my meter on the plug side of that wire, and the meter reads millivolts. Let me see if I can get there. So millivolts, meaning the relay's not fried out, the circuit board's not fried out. But when I put it on to the vehicle side, coming across the vehicle, then we go to 12 volts. Let me reconnect this again. Sorry, these silly Ford stuffing everything in the kick panel just sucks. So this is the vehicle side of the blue wire. This is the blue wire coming from there to here. So I have a ground on it here somewhere. Went to Mitchell, which is always my favorite source. There's All Data and some others. Mitchell I prefer because it's about as clear as most anybody's going to get. And you have, that's your clock spring right here. Coming out of it, there's your dark blue wire. Comes up and goes into the relay control, but it also goes here into the body control module, and it's in a cruddy place. This relay control is the output from the body control module for the anti-theft, your panic, your lock, unlock, etc., etc. Not the first time I've seen that fail, and it may not have actually failed, but I'm not going to chase it down because this vehicle has another remote to it, not a factory Ford remote. So I'm not going to chase this down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the clock spring where I got the wire cut, I'm going to run it across and tap into it, connect it over there on just above the fuse box. The other part of your diagram is that fuse number 26 is constant power here and power for pin 86 of the relay, and then yellow-green goes out to your two horns as a positive. The horn bodies are grounded. So it's a really simplistic circuit. If you've got a constant ground on there, you can follow what I've done, and then this is most likely the suspicion, but you know, it could be picking up a ground anywhere. But that lets you know where you're going and where your problem is, because it could have just as easily been a fried out clock spring. Hope that helps you get this through this project.